Senior Squad, Making New Friends After 70. An inspirational storytelling-based journey on finding connection, belonging, and new bonds in later life. There's something quietly powerful about reaching your 70s. You've seen the world shift beneath your feet more times than most can count. Wars have ended, new ones have started, children have grown up, some friends have faded away, and your own body has become a map of the life you've lived. Maybe you've worked hard your whole life, raised a family, loved deeply, lost painfully, and adapted to a world that never stops changing. And now, after all that, you might find yourself sitting in a quiet kitchen, sipping your morning coffee, and wondering, where did everybody go? It's not that you're unloved, but the phone doesn't ring like it used to. Invitations are fewer, conversations feel shorter. Sometimes the days stretch out long and wordless. It's easy to think that making new friends after 70 is a closed chapter, that the people meant to be in your life have already come and gone. That kind of thinking isn't just lonely. It's wrong. And it's time someone said it out loud. You see, friendship doesn't have a deadline. It isn't confined to schoolyards, workplaces, or youth. It doesn't care if your hair is silver, your back aches, or if you've had to slow down. In fact, the kind of friendships that come later in life might just be the most real, the most soul-deep, because they're not built on drama, competition, or need. They're built on shared stories, hard-won wisdom, and the purest desire for connection. This isn't about finding a crowd. It's about finding your people. Whether that's one person who gets your jokes, someone to walk with on Wednesdays, or a group of folks who meet every Friday just to talk about nothing and everything. It's about opening the window a little, wider, letting new light in and reminding yourself that you're not done, not by a long shot. So if you're still breathing, still feeling, still hoping, then yes, you can still connect. You can still laugh until your stomach hurts, cry on someone's shoulder, dance even if it's just in your living room. This isn't the end of the story. This is the start of a new chapter. One that's waiting to be filled with names you haven't learned yet and memories you haven't made. Let's talk about how. There's a quiet lie that sneaks into our heads as we get older. It sounds like this. It's too late. Too late to start over. Too late to make new friends. Too late to belong to something again. It's the kind of thought that doesn't shout, it whispers. You hear it when you look around the room and realize you don't know anyone anymore. You feel it when the neighborhood you once walked with your spouse is now just yours alone. You might not say it out loud, but the belief sinks in deeper with every year. But that belief, it's wrong, flat out wrong. There's no expiration date on connection. Friendships don't come with a best buy stamp. The truth is, people form some of the most powerful, genuine relationships after 70, and not because they're trying to fill a void, but because with age comes clarity. You begin to see what really matters. You're no longer interested in shallow small talk or performative friendship. You want the real thing, someone who listens, who gets you, who shows up without needing a reason. Think about it. You've spent a lifetime learning who you are. You know what makes you laugh, what touches your soul, and what kind of people lift your spirit. Why wouldn't now be the best time to invite that into your life? There's a man named Robert in Virginia who didn't make a single new friend for 2 decades after his wife died. He kept telling himself no one would want to connect with someone like him. Then one morning at a dog park, he complimented someone's golden retriever. That turned into a conversation. That turned into coffee. That turned into a Sunday morning routine with 3 other retirees and their dogs. At 82, Robert now calls it his friendship club. It wasn't too late for Robert, and it's not too late for you. Friendship isn't about age, it's about openness. If your heart is still willing, your time hasn't passed. You're just getting to the good part. There's a kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful. It doesn't comfort or calm. It echoes. It rings in the empty chairs at the table, in the unanswered texts, in the long afternoons where you wonder if anyone's thinking of you at all. That's not solitude. That's loneliness. And it hurts in a way that isn't always easy to name. Loneliness isn't just a feeling. It can change you. It can make your body ache, your mind spiral, your spirit dim. Studies show that chronic loneliness in older adults can be as harmful to health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It can weaken the immune system, accelerate memory decline, and increase the risk of heart disease and depression. But beyond the data is something even more important. The human heart wasn't meant to live in isolation. People need people. Not just for the big moments, but for the tiny ones too. Someone to tell you the soup tastes better today. Someone to laugh with about that show you both secretly love. Someone to call just because the sunset looks too pretty not to share. The trouble is, loneliness can convince you that reaching out is pointless. It feeds itself. You think, why bother? So you don't. And the silence grows louder. But here's the truth. You are not a burden. Your voice is still wanted. Your presence still matters. There are others, so many others, feeling exactly the way you do, waiting for someone to go first. To say hi, to say, hey, I'd love a walking partner, to ask, want to grab coffee sometime? Loneliness may whisper that you're alone, but don't believe it. The world is full of people who would feel lucky to know you. All it takes is one step, one word, one moment of courage, and the silence can begin to break. You won't always find friendship where you think it should be. It doesn't always come from old classmates, neighbors, or even family. Sometimes it begins in the most ordinary, even awkward of places. A shared bench at the doctor's office, a conversation in line at the pharmacy, a moment of eye contact at the farmer's market. These are not grand moments, but they are real, and they're enough. There's something beautifully human about the way connection can sneak up on us when we least expect it, like the woman who struck up a conversation over cantaloupes at a grocery store and ended up forming a walking club with the lady behind her in line, or the retired teacher who joined a local trivia night at the library and found not just teammates but a new circle of friends. One man in Minnesota, Earl, age 79, decided to learn how to bake bread during the pandemic. He started leaving loaves on neighbors' porches with little handwritten notes. One day a note came back, then another. Now, Earl and 5 of his neighbors meet every Thursday for what they call Carb Club. It all started with a loaf of sourdough and a bit of kindness. The lesson is simple: stay open. Don't wait for a grand gesture or perfect moment. Real friendships often bloom from small talk, shared smiles, and casual kindness. Look up from your routine. Say hello. Compliment a stranger. Ask someone about their dog or the book they're reading. These tiny seeds can grow into something life-changing, because sometimes the best friendships aren't found. They're made, one unexpected moment at a time. You might think of community as a physical thing, a building, a town, a room filled with people chatting over weak coffee. But real community, the kind that fills you up and reminds you you're not alone, isn't about geography. It's a feeling, a sense of belonging, a soft understanding that when you show up, someone will notice. It can happen anywhere. It might be in a church basement with a mismatched set of chairs. It might be at a senior center with a weekly schedule taped to the wall. It might be at your local park bench where the same faces pass by every morning. The place doesn't matter nearly as much as the spirit inside it. The people who create community aren't the loudest or the most social. Often, they're just the ones who choose to keep showing up. They bring an extra thermos of tea to share. They remember your birthday. They ask how your dog is doing and actually listen to the answer. Take the story of Helen, a retired nurse in Oregon. She didn't know many people after her husband passed away. One day, she joined a watercolor class at the local library, not because she could paint, but because it was something to do. The first week, no one spoke much, but she came back, and again. And eventually, one woman said, "Your colors are so soft. I like them." That one sentence became a friendship. And over time, that class turned into a potluck, and the potluck turned into a bond stronger than family. You don't need dozens of people to feel connected. Sometimes, 2 or 3 is enough. You just need consistency, a shared laugh, and the courage to be yourself. When you find people who accept you for who you are, gray hairs, stories, quirks, and all, You've found your people. That's community. That's home. Starting a conversation can feel awkward at any age, but after 70, it can feel downright intimidating. What do you say? Will they want to talk? Do you sound needy? Should you even bother? Let's take the pressure off right now. Connection doesn't require the perfect words. It just requires you. Think of the first hello not as a performance, but as an invitation. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're simply offering a moment of shared humanity. Maybe it's a compliment. That scarf suits you. Maybe it's a question. Is this your first time at this group? Or maybe it's something even simpler. Mind if I sit here? These are tiny bridges. Walk across them. You might not click with every person, and that's okay. But the key is to keep trying. Think of it like planting seeds. Not all of them will bloom, but some will. And those are the ones that matter. Also, don't underestimate the power of the follow-up. If you had a pleasant talk, say so. I enjoyed chatting with you last time. Want to meet for coffee? Most people are relieved when someone else makes the first move. They're just as nervous as you are. Friendship, like any relationship, grows with time. One hello turns into a second conversation, then a shared laugh, then maybe a regular routine. Before you know it, you're not just making friends, you're becoming one. It's a strange thing, this world we live in now. A place where you can talk to someone in another state, another country, even another continent, without ever leaving your chair. For many seniors, the digital age can feel overwhelming or impersonal. But for others, it's been a lifeline. Online friendships might not replace the warmth of a hug or the comfort of a hand on your shoulder, but they can bring joy, laughter, and real connection right to your fingertips. There are Facebook groups for every interest you can imagine: gardening, memoir writing, music from the 50s. There are Zoom meetups for book lovers, cooking classes, and even virtual choirs. And in those little squares on a screen, friendships are forming every day. There's a man named Luis in New Mexico who joined a virtual chess club during lockdown. He now plays weekly with a man in Maine and a woman in British Columbia. They've never met in person, but they know each other's stories, routines, and favorite jokes. You don't have to be a tech wizard. Start small. Ask a friend or relative to help you set up an email or Facebook account. Join one group that interests you. Comment once, reply once. And suddenly you're part of a conversation again. Technology may seem cold, but it's just a tool. When used with warmth, intention, and kindness, it becomes a bridge to people you would have never met otherwise. And those people might just be waiting for someone like you. One of the hardest truths to face in later life is this: not all relationships age gracefully. Some connections, even ones you've had for decades, might start to feel heavy, draining, or even hurtful. And for too long, many people, especially older adults, believe they need to hold on to every friendship out of loyalty, history, or guilt. But here's the truth you may need to hear: you don't owe your peace to people who disrupt it. As we get older, we begin to understand the value of energy. Not just physical energy, but emotional energy. The kind it takes to smile through someone's bitterness, or forgive the same careless words again and again. You've earned the right to protect your heart. Saying goodbye to toxic friendships doesn't mean you're unkind. It means you're finally choosing relationships that nourish instead of deplete. And by making that space, you're allowing something better to grow. It might feel uncomfortable at first, especially if the friendship is old or if the other person has come to expect your silence. But you don't need permission to walk away. You only need clarity. And once the noise quiets, you'll be surprised at what shows up in its place. Maybe a new neighbor who brings soup on a rainy day, or someone at the community center who always saves you a seat, or a friend from decades ago who reaches out just when you need it most. Don't be afraid to let go. What's meant to stay will stay, and what's meant to arrive will only find you when the space is ready. There's something magical that happens when people come together with a shared goal. When you're no longer just sitting in a room together but working side by side, packing meals, planting trees, organizing books at the local library. That shared sense of purpose becomes fertile ground for friendship. Volunteering isn't just a way to give back. It's a way to plug into something bigger than yourself. And in doing so, you often find others who believe in the same things you do. Kindness, community, service. Take Clara, for example. At 76, she joined a group that delivered meals to homebound seniors. She signed up just to help out. But week after week, she found herself looking forward not only to the deliveries, but to the laughter in the car with her partner driver, George. After 6 months, they started having lunch together after their first dinner. Now they call each other co-pilots, not just on the road, but in life. That's the thing about service. It builds a bond that's about more than talk. It's about showing up together, doing something real, and realizing that your hands, your heart, your time, they still matter. You don't have to commit to a big, overwhelming mission. Start small. Help out at a local school, food pantry, or animal shelter. Offer to read to children or mentor a young adult. Every act of kindness is a step toward connection. Every shared mission is a chance to meet someone who just might change your life. Friendship often grows fastest when it's wrapped around something else. A shared belief, a favorite story, a question no one's ever quite figured out. That's why some of the strongest connections are made, not in social mixers or forced gatherings, but in quiet corners of curiosity. For some, that place is faith, a church group, a Bible study, a meditation circle. These are spaces where people come together not just to worship, but to be seen, supported, and gently challenged to grow. In those sacred conversations, trust forms. Vulnerability is met with grace, and over time, friendships blossom. For others, it's books. A novel passed between two neighbors, a library book club that becomes the highlight of the month. Stories have a way of opening us up, because in talking about fictional lives, we often reveal pieces of our own. Then there are those whose friendships begin in curiosity. They sign up for a cooking class, a history seminar, or a travel slideshow night. Not necessarily because they're experts, but because they're interested. And that interest becomes a doorway. Consider two women who met at a community center's birdwatching class. They didn't even know what a blue jay looked like on day one. But they shared a pair of binoculars and then a thermos of coffee. Now 3 years later, they meet every weekend whether the birds show up or not. The point isn't the activity, it's the connection underneath. When you find something you love, or something you're curious to learn, don't do it alone. Do it out loud. Do it in a group. Invite someone in. Because sometimes friendship begins not with a question or a greeting, but with shared awe at the same sunrise. There is no pain quite like losing someone you love deeply. Whether it's the quiet absence of a spouse after decades of shared life, or the sudden silence when a close friend is gone, it changes you. It rearranges your days. And it can leave you with a strange, empty ache where laughter once lived. Grief can make you feel like friendship is over for good. You might think, I had my person. That chapter is closed. You might feel guilty for even wanting to connect again. Or maybe you're just too tired to open your heart, afraid it might break again. But here's what so many people learn, slowly, gently, in their own time. Opening your heart again doesn't betray the person you lost. It honors them. Because every time you share a story, a laugh, or a sunset with someone new, you're carrying a piece of that love forward. There's no timetable for grief, no rule book for when or how to connect again. But there are moments, small ones, that begin to stir something. A neighbor who brings flowers, a classmate who says, "I'm so glad you're here." A stranger who listens without needing to fix anything. Eleanor, 81, lost her husband of 47 years and said she felt like the whole world turned gray. A year later, she joined a grief support group at her local community center. She hardly spoke for the first month. But one afternoon, a man named Frank told a story that made her laugh, really laugh, for the first time in a year. She said it startled her. That laugh was the beginning of a new friendship. They now go on walks together, not as replacements, but as companions, walking side by side through the life that continues. You don't have to rush. Just stay open. Healing doesn't mean forgetting, and love, even after loss, can find its way back in, quietly, kindly, when you're ready. There's a beautiful kind of friendship that doesn't care about age. One built not on shared generations, but shared spirit. It often surprises people, this connection between someone in their 70s and someone in their 20s or 30s. But when it happens, it's electric. You have wisdom, stories, a long view of life. And younger people, especially the ones who slow down enough to listen, are often hungry for that. They crave guidance that isn't preachy, connection that isn't competitive, presence that feels grounded. On the other hand, younger friends bring energy. They bring questions, fresh ideas, and perspectives that shake loose the routines we sometimes settle into. They help you see the world again through new eyes. Take Walter, 84, a retired mechanic who started mentoring high school students in his town. He thought he'd just be showing them how to fix cars. Instead, he found himself invited to birthday parties, graduation dinners, even FaceTiming one of them when their cat had kittens. "They treat me like one of the crew," he laughs. "Except, I always get the front seat." Or Susan, 73, who befriended her neighbor's 30-year-old daughter during lockdown. They started chatting across the fence. Now they share books, trade soup recipes, and binge-watch murder mysteries. Susan says, "She reminds me how to dream again. Age is just the wrapping. What matters is the exchange, the trust, the laughter, the space where generations can meet as equals." So don't dismiss a potential friend just because they weren't born in the same decade. Sometimes the best companions are the ones who help us feel both older and younger at once. It's easy to forget this, especially when you feel lonely yourself. But you might be someone's missing piece. You might be the steady presence they need, the kindness they haven't felt in a long time, the reason they look forward to Wednesdays. Sometimes, we get so focused on trying to find connection that we forget. We are connection. Our listening ears, our gentle hands, our jokes, our stories, these are lifelines. And someone out there may be quietly hoping for a person just like you to show up. Janice, a widow in her late 70s, started checking in on her neighbor, a quiet man in his 60s, after she noticed his curtains hadn't opened for a few days. At first he was hesitant, but she kept showing up. Eventually, they started having tea once a week. One day he told her, "You're the only person who's talked to me in months." That sentence broke her heart and reminded her that simply showing up is sometimes the most powerful thing we can do. You don't need to fix anyone. You don't need grand gestures or perfect timing. You just need to be present. A friendly wave, a hot bowl of soup, a phone call, a note slipped into a mailbox. Sometimes we think we're the ones looking for rescue, but in reaching out, in caring, in being there, we often rescue each other. So here we are, at the end of this conversation, but maybe, just maybe, at the beginning of something else. You've heard the stories, you've felt the quiet truths, and maybe now, a little seed of hope has taken root in your heart. That soft whisper reminding you that it's not over, that there's still room in your life for laughter that isn't tinged with memory, for connection that hasn't been written yet, for names you don't know now, but might one day treasure. Friendship. After 70 isn't some fantasy for the lucky few. It's real, it's reachable, and it's waiting for you in the small places, in an unexpected smile, a new hobby, a half-hearted hello that turns into something more. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be outgoing. You just have to be present. Maybe you'll find one friend. Maybe you'll build a new circle, your very own senior squad. Or maybe you'll simply find comfort in knowing that connection is still possible, still sacred, still yours to claim. The world needs what you carry, your stories, your strength, your softness. Don't keep it hidden. Let it reach someone. Because someone out there is waiting for a friend too. So go ahead, join the class, say yes to the invite, smile first. Be the one who shows up, not just because you deserve it, but because someone else needs you to believe it's not too late. And when the day comes, maybe next week, maybe next month, when you find yourself laughing over coffee or walking side by side with someone new, I hope you remember this moment, this choice, this quiet decision to stay open. Because in the end, the best parts of life don't happen when we close ourselves off. They happen when we reach out our hand and say, "I'm still here. And I'd love to know you."